Welcome to the final installment of my variant series, where I go over science-themed variants of canon Pokemon. I know I keep saying how I won't use these exact designs in my independent project on the same theme, but today I'll finally reveal why I went over these designs at the end of this video. For now, I'll be talking about an event I held back in 2022 before I decided to go indie. I asked everyone to submit their own science-themed Pokemon variants, where I would choose a few to include in my own project. But oops, I can't use them anymore, now that I want my project to be independent from any franchise. But it was a blast, and I want to thank everyone who participated back then. Today, I'll be going over 5 artists' entries, so make sure to check out and follow each of them, as their links would be in the description. So without further ado, let's recap the past finalists and talk about some designs. AALaser398 on Instagram made a stunning variant of Sandygast line, literally, as it's been struck by lightning and looks like they are screaming. It's a very cute design to talk about Fulgurite, which are hollow tubes of sand or rocks that forms when lightning strikes the ground. All the hot energy from the bolt makes the sand in the ground momentarily melt and fuse with the sand around it. And the Fulgurite is usually hollow, as that's the path the lightning makes, so the middle completely melts until the lightning goes deep enough in the ground before dissipating. Fulgurites are often called lightning fossils. I barely changed the design from the original. It always felt bad to rip a design from someone else completely, even if they did make it for the challenge and all, so I tried to change the Palossand a little more, even though I wouldn't be able to top theirs. Look at that beautiful arm. Yeah, I only changed the color in my rendition, but that arm is a reference to the Lichtenberg figure, a shape that lightning makes in insulating material. I mean, electricity would love to go straight down a metal pipe, but if there are only insulating material around, like air, it would branch out in this kind of a pattern. Heck, most lightning bolts themselves are Lichtenberg figures. Now, Pug Waffles is more active on YouTube, but they made a brilliant submission to reference the peppered moth, which was a case study that showcased natural selection. If you don't know, the story goes that there used to be a bunch of peppered moths with white bodies, with various amounts of dots on them, but during the Industrial Revolution, black-bodied variants were more common. No, they weren't covered in soot themselves, but they did blend in with the soot much better than the white-bodied moths could. After pollution was reduced, more of the white-bodied moths were noticed in the area. Natural selection is the unintentional favoring of a trait. Now, this was a concept I just couldn't give up at the time, but I had an idea to use another Lepidoptera other than Dustox. I wanted to use Vivillon, who is already known to have a lot of variants. But while those other variants are just cosmetic, this industrial form would be bug fire type instead of bug flying. While I really did like this concept, since I can't reference Vivillon anymore, I might have to leave this concept behind, unless I make a new mod with separate forms. We'll just have to see. Now, that's not the only mod I switched around. I'll have you know that I've discussed with the artists of what changes I would be making at the time, like Galactros on Twitter, who made a heat-resistant clauncher referencing the Alvinocaris shrimp, which live near hydrothermal vents. I talked about those vents in my Extremophile video. These are some pretty extreme shrimp living under some super hot areas. Now, I already have an Extremophile and Extremo-tolerant designs, but there could be a different specific concept at play here, because these shrimp are extremotolerant due to them having a lot of heat shock proteins. These special proteins help keep other proteins maintain their shape in these hot temperatures, so upon some discussion, I ended up with a regional shelter, as some mussels are also found near the vents. This shelter is a firefighting type, fire because it's all about resisting heat, and fighting because it's about representing a protein. These heat shock proteins can help other proteins from losing their shape by chaperoning them. Chaperones in terms of proteins often cover the other proteins to help them fold correctly before they are let go. That's why both Shelter and Cloyster here look like they have hands for shells to squeeze together others and keep them together despite the intense heat around them. Cloyster's design also has a bit of that hydrothermal vent element in it. Alright, Back on Instagram, I couldn't ignore this entry by Mewific, who made this amazing Ladybug regional based off of Hox gene mutation experiments in fruit flies. I mean, look at all these details with a signature move and even additional lore. They went beyond what I was asking for, but yeah, the Hox gene is a set of genes that are responsible for the organization of an embryo's body plan, even human embryos. If the Hox gene got mutated, the embryo would grow to have an ectopic body section, which means there's a body section where it's not supposed to be, such as eyes on their legs or additional pair of legs on their head, like what this Ladybug variant has. Since the release of Scarlet and Violet, apparently the Dunsparce could be a reference to these mutations, at least according to Bulbapedia, but I'll have you know that Mewific did it first. However, upon having a discussion, it seemed that Ledian themselves is pretty underpowered, so why not have a straight up evolution through a new item that mutates Ledian into Ladyhawks? More realistically, this mutation needs to occur much earlier before the embryo has even formed, which was what Mewific initially had, but here I thought that Ledian could use some help. Last but not least, we return to Twitter to Ringu, who made a charming Carbink variant based off of forecasting volcano eruptions, as some volcanoes are described to be singing before they go off. Volcano eruptions still can't be predicted 100% of the time, but detecting sound waves definitely helps. Now, I initially thought that I could tie this in with the ringing rocks, which are a natural phenomena in a few parks where hitting the rocks makes them sing a tune. There hasn't been much research to definitively explain this phenomenon, but I ended up taking a step back. Thought about adding a seismograph element, this ringing rock concept, on top of the singing volcano sound waves, but trying to include this in my own project kind of fell apart for me. I already made it clear that I wanted to include this entry, so I ended up doing a hard pivot, just focusing on Carbink. What is Carbink? A diamond. And what is a diamond? Carbon. What else is made up of carbon? Okay, a lot of things, but graphite is a popular comparison, because that's pencil lead. How could pencil lead, which breaks apart so easily, could be made of the same thing as a diamond? It has to do with how they're organized. Unlike the crystal pattern of a diamond, graphite is a bunch of layers of carbon. These layers aren't that well connected to each other as the sheets themselves are, so they easily fall off. That's why this regional Carbink has flat chunks of graphite sticking out like those sheets. Sheets of what though? It used to be just called sheets of carbon, but now we have a name for that sheet, called graphene. Graphene is light, is a good conductor just like graphite is, and it has a lot of promising uses in tech. Though it feels like there's been a lot more talk about them than actual products as of now. So yeah, I thought about giving this Carbink an evolution. Don't worry, the other Carbink was defensively weak anyways. I thought about how these could be like a secret elite group to help out the Pink Diamond Princess Diancie, but I'll have to leave the design behind, even if I could reuse the concept. Thank you so much for watching my variant series. Don't forget to check out each of these amazing artists down in the description below. So I know these past few videos had me repeating how I can't use these regional designs anymore, so why would I share them? Of course, I feel like the topics that they cover are exciting and warrants a video of their own, but I wanted to announce something. Like how I held a challenge in 2022 about making science-themed variants of Pokemon, I'd like to announce the Science Pokemon Challenge of 2023. That's right, while I can't use canon Pokemon in my independent project, I sure can talk about them. I'll have this challenge open through the whole month of June, deadline being the end of June 30th, where I want you to make a variant of a canon Pokemon based off of a science lesson. It can be a new evolution, a regional variant, or a regional evolution. Heck, this time you can even make a convergent of a canon Pokemon. If you're knowledgeable about how to make a Mega, G-Max, or Paradox form, I won't stop you, but here's the biggest rule. Your design must reference a specific science concept that you need to explain in the Google form when you submit. Only your last submission would be considered, so remember to use the Google form that is down in the description. After June 30th, I'll take some of my picks in my favorite concepts and my favorite designs and share your artwork in a video where I shout out your socials and talk about the science concept that you explore. I could even make my own render of your design, and I'll promise I'll be more faithful to your submissions this time, as I'm not worrying about including them in a larger project. I'm necessitating a design because I don't want laundry lists of possible concepts. But on the other hand, if you're stuck in finding a concept, I'd recommend looking through topic lists in websites like Khan Academy, or check out fun topics covered in YouTube channels like SciShow. You could also look at my other videos of this variant series to see more examples, and I'm also live on Twitch around 8 p.m. on Mondays and Thursdays. I'll make a community post if I change schedules. I'll probably make a separate short video about this challenge soon, but other than that, this concludes my variant series. Thank you all so much for watching, especially to my Patreon members who are helping me directly in these hectic times. Despite this challenge going on through the month of June, we'll be returning to my Stemma project in the meantime. So thank you so much once again, and I'm looking forward to seeing your work. I'll see you around.